Hi, my name's Kyle. I'm going to be the American sounding guy on this podcast, and I'd like to kick it over to my co host, Yusuf, who's going to be the non American sounding guy on the podcast. Hello.
Yes, because the world is divided in between Americans and non-Americans. So I think we're going to be the best representation of the world in this TV show. Also, we are just both partially white, so I think that just makes everything better.
Well, Yusuf, I mean, I have seen that photo of you where you're shaven and you look like you're 13. And I would still arrest you if I were an American policeman.
I don't I don't even have that photo. I don't know where you've seen it, but yeah.
I've seen the photo. You may have tried to burn it or something. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, you're pretty much white. Yeah, okay.
I think so too. It's just I had this friend gonna be stay nameless for the time being.
No, please give me their all their information when you
I
tell us
have
this.
their information. I can give it to you in person, but not now. Just like she was just saying how she's not white, and because she was kind of she's a socialist and kind of an anarchist. I don't know, like combination of everything. A very progressive thinking, one of the smartest people I ever known, but white as fuck. So let's just set that as a fact, okay? And it's just like you can't ever get more white than that. And I guess as a kind of an because of her ideological, uh, standing, understandably, was claiming she's not white. Like just against that. But like, well, it doesn't really stop you from enjoying all the privileges, does it? So I don't know. It just makes me feel kind of bad when someone is kind of just finding reasons to owning just being underprivileged for some reason. I don't know if that makes sense for people who are actually underprivileged for so many reasons.
Well, she's a socialist slash anarchist, so I guess you're probably not in the habit of advertising your like upper middle class upbringing in that case, no?
In her case, in my case, in her case,
In her
in my case, that's also the truth.
right. So
So did this story remind you of your upper middle class upbringing?
well, you see, I'm a white man in America, and
And still suffering?
well, yes, but all of my suffering is self-inflicted.
Is it?
Uh,
Some things are not your. It's not your fault, Kyle. It's not.
Listen, I volunteered for the Bernie Sanders campaign. I simply wanted everyone to have health insurance, and I knocked on doors in South Carolina and New Hampshire. I called people in Missouri and Michigan, and basically it it turns out that I'm just a white dude bro who's probably a closet racist, I think, according to my media. I don't
Your
know.
media?
Yeah.
You mean the American mainstream media? That's what you mean by my media.
You can call it is actually the American lamestream media. That's what we
Yeah.
call it.
Although I have to say, I just did find that what is considered non-mainstream media, all these YouTube political TV shows, a little bit lameish in the this whole democratic democratic primaries in the U.S. Because
Well,
in the end of the day, I feel like 80% of those people either like old slash not so much successful comedians, and here I don't really refer to their uh, value of what they say politically, but that as comedians they didn't really accomplish what they probably tried to accomplish, so they just turn into kind of making a little bit of a satire of contemporary politics, which they should definitely. It's the whole political landscape is nothing but a big reality TV right now, especially in the United States. But that, now I feel like they're all those people who kind of were belonging to lamestream in some point in their life, and for different reasons they just couldn't make it there, and now they're just kind of taking it all out on the media. I feel like most of their target is the media, but not actually politics. So everything just becomes one media show where one media is just hit by another media. And then we don't really talk much about what goes on and what should go on as an actual politics and policy. Why can't we substantially talk about politics, which should be about deciding who gets what, including rights and resources?
The American media is for children, and it's for dumb, stupid babies. And they only want to talk about, like, oh, Trump said inject yourself with, some kind of household cleaner, or, whatever dumb shit he said this week. But they'll only cover that. They actually don't cover any, like, of the legislation process, or, with any Supreme Court decisions. It's all just sort of a soap opera now. And that is the stage that I think we're in. And, I think you're right that the left is definitely, like, responding to what the current media climate is. And they kind of take that form now.
Depressing to think how in U.S. politics that people actually start talking. I mean, the policy issue is that either to give people a basic healthcare or not. So we don't really talk about, how from the very bottom up there are so many structural injustices which actually make some people vulnerable to ill health and mortality because of their economic or social conditions. So we don't even talk about all those things, and I think that that's also that's part of the problem for the world politics to even just think of people like Bernie Sanders, kind of revolutionary socialists. And not that I'm saying Bernie was actually ever calling himself that.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess from my perspective, the work that still needs to be done seems insurmountable. In that you have so many suburbanites now built into this left coalition that is the Democratic Party, if we can even call it a left coalition.
Yeah.
And then you have, like, numerous other groups that historically now vote Democrat. It's an uphill battle for an insurgent left to try and take on. And it's funny because, like, ever since Bernie dropped out, I haven't given a fuck about politics at all. I don't follow it anymore. I don't care. It's no longer my fight. I wanted it to be against Trump. I wanted the socialist left to lead the fight, but we were defeated by the centrists yet again, and now it's up to them. They'll get nothing from me. They'll get no activism. They'll get no phone calls for Joe Biden. It's I'm kind of like like how your parents used to talk to you, like, if you created this mess, then you have to think of a way out of it. That's kind of how I, like, view the Democrats now. Like, I'm just like a sideline spectator, which I think a lot of people on the left are now, again, in America. I've stopped calling the Democrats, and I only refer to them as the Demonrats now. So I think when people hear me say Demonrats,
isn't it a little too much?
Is it a little too much?
I mean,
what?
Demonrats? I mean, demons alone would be fine. Rats, yes. Demon rats. I mean, it's a little too imaginative. I think you're giving a little too much power. You're a little overrating the Democrats. I think they're demon rats.
You're right. I shouldn't have chosen such a stately term for them. But yeah, should I vote for Joe Biden?
No. I mean, okay. The question is like, okay. I think this is a little weird to ask someone if you should vote for Joe Biden. But if you
Yeah.
ask if I would, okay, I'm not obviously I have nothing to do with the US. I never been there. Just let's make that clear. Okay, all right. But if I would be with the little as little as information I have had the right to vote, I wouldn't vote for Joe Biden ever. Or alternatively, let's say Joe Biden is a candidate in Turkey. Huh? What?
I'm just imagining Joe Biden with like a really thick mustache.
I think if Joe Biden would have a very thin mustache and would be the candidate of whatever party in Turkey, I would definitely not vote for him.
If Joe Biden was like the peace and justice? What's the AKP?
Peace and justice? No.
What if Joe Biden was trying to give you peace and justice?
Justice and Development Party.
Justice and well, hey, how can you be against those two things, right?
Yeah, no way you can. No way. And I'm not against them.
Right. So you're pretty much an AKP supporter.
I'm just pretty much an A and a K supporter for sure. For years. Although I'm not so much keen on development, I have to admit. I mean, I love justice, definitely. I teach about justice. I did teach for years about justice, but not so much about development.
So should we get into this movie?
Definitely.
As I should say.
Yeah, but I was just thinking about the movie when you started talking about the suburbanites, how they are politically transforming.
Yeah, and we can imagine, this neighborhood. I don't think it's like clearly stated in the film. It is. It's Minnesota somewhere. Somewhere presumably in like the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, somewhere. But what's right, I think it's kind of interesting is that could be the East Coast, the West Coast. It doesn't really matter.
Are you talking about where the Dybbuk lives, or are you talking about where the
no, where the family, the Gopniks live?
I think where Dybbuk lives also seemed like Minnesota a little bit. Was it Poland?
Don't let an American correct you on geography. Yeah, it was like Eastern Poland, Western Ukraine. Yeah, somewhere around there. Not far from
I think this. Well, you know better, so maybe you can enlighten me about this. That Dybbuk story, is that more of a Eastern European kind of Ukrainian peninsula story?
I have no idea.
I think I'm not gonna be enlightened by you today, but it's fine.
I never promised that, to be fair to me.
That is true. That's true. But I always took you as a more of a person of enlightenment and modernity.
No, you're wrong.
I'm wrong.
That's not true.
Okay.
So.
All right. But okay. What even with the limited knowledge we have, do you think he was a Dybbuk?
Who?
The old dude. The old. I don't remember his name right now. In the beginning, so there is that story about kind of this pebble of some sort. There is this old guy who appears in the snow helping a fellow man, and allegedly is actually dead. His wife then tells him, but he invites him to the house, so he comes He's like an old, little bit creepy looking dude, and the wife claims that he's a dybbuk, he's kind of this devilish soul. We are not given an answer at all if he's actually kind of an evil soul, or if he actually was the person whom he claimed to be. And
Right.
and so, what do you think? So, do you think he was a dybbuk?
I think I think that so I was interested in how it's left open to interpretation, how the
Right?
Coen brothers chose to not answer it, and they leave so much open-ended in this film, right? From the beginning to the very end, um, and we can get into some of those unanswered questions if you'd like. But I I didn't spend too much time thinking about this Dybbuk story, but I don't know that I would give like a yes or no. I don't know.
But
I don't know.
that's was actually, I'm happy to hear that, because I think that's exactly what's the point. I don't think it matters at all. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think that's exactly what they just keep doing in the movie, not just with the narrative, but with also, this whole feeling of, and like this puzzlement, and just like not being able to find answers. And I think the whole movie is designed to create this sense of kind of discomfort. I just and Depends on your current mood, but I was feeling quite a bit of little bit eerie like last time I watched it again. As much as I know, what's going on, obviously because of watching many times.
And it definitely resonated with being in quarantine for the last 2 months and what we were just talking about with like um, we don't seem to have any answers for what the future is going to hold, much like the main character,
Larry.
Larry Gopnik.
Yeah, Larry Gopnik.
There are these crises that Larry has to deal with throughout the film. It resonates in the sense that these are very uncertain times for Larry. These are very uncertain times for all of us living through this pandemic, where 1 month seems like so much longer than it used to. And so I was struck by that in this viewing of Serious Man.
I think that definitely that also did resonate with me, in the sense of I felt more discomfort, kind of resembled our own predicaments right now. I completely agree with what you just said, but I think there's just one fundamental difference, and that is like normally when something shitty happens to us, and so many shitty things happen to Larry, right, in the movie, in first 15 minutes or something. I can't even count right now. And like he keeps asking, so what he has in mind is, why is this happening? Why are all these things happening to me? Right? That's what he questions. I think when something bad happens to us in our daily life, just like what we are going through right now, collectively, of course, when something happens personally, we kind of ask this question: why is this happening to me? Because in its essence, I think we kind of find it a little more discomforting that it's happening to us but not to other people, and then we kind of want to find out the reasons why it's me, like why I have been a good person, why now am I why was I fired from my job? You've been generally a nice person, like why can't I find a nice partner? I've been a good person, why like just rock just hit me in the head and I was hospitalized for a year? So we kind of make these connections and we kind of question why something bad is happening to us. And I think the difference from what is happening right now in the world, it's collectively happening. No one is really feeling personally disrespected by the fate or the whatever they think is running things. They feel bored, they feel puzzled, they feel they have questions, but there's no resentment. What do you think?
Well, so Larry's going on this spiritual journey in the film, right? drawing on these, this long history, Jewish traditions, and
Yeah.
he's seeking out rabbis, and that's his own sort of idiosyncratic journey, where I think collectively today people aren't going on their own journeys in seeking understanding about this situation. So I think we're in agreement on that. But I think that there is, at least in the United States, there is a ton of resentment uh, toward whoever's your enemy, right? If you're a Republican and you live in a Democratic run state, then you're pissed off at your governor because he won't let you go get a haircut, won't let you get a tattoo or whatever it is. So I think like that, I do think there's resentment, and I think there are a lot of things that are preventing people from asking bigger questions, such as what Larry's trying to do. He's looking for answers and he's not finding anything. So I don't know if we're in agreement on that totally.
But okay, so do you think Larry is resentful towards Hashim,
No,
God?
no, I don't think so. No, do you?
But his brother is, right?
Yes,
So
his brother.
yeah, his brother is, and so I think that's the kind of a weird dialectic there. That is actually his brother also definitely went through some shit. We also don't know fully what that is, but we know. And Larry's like bad things are happening to Larry, and actually his brother just comes out and just crying one scene, and he's just like kind of asking or complaining about or to God, and Larry is like, "Oh, don't complain about Hashim." Uh, but that exactly kind of proves your point. Even though like Larry is going over like just bad things are happening to him, he's actually not, because he's not there yet. He's trying to find. He still like trusts. I think he still relies on his beliefs. He's trying to find a reason why, but he couldn't find it yet. At that point, just going to different rabbis to just simply consult with them, but he's still like not at that kind of level. Maybe he will, if maybe he will later. We don't know, but at that point he's not.
Well, I think what's interesting between the two brothers is they're both on sort of these parallel journeys of um, spiritual enlightenment, if you will. Where like
Hmm.
his brother, who's doing those, he's got that notebook full of math formulas, right?
Yeah.
He's presumably doing that math. It really looks like, do you know like outsider art?
Oh no, no, I don't.
Like art is just like this term for when people who aren't trained as artists just do artwork. And like if you open up what was it, Arthur Gopnik's notebook?
Yeah.
His notebook looks like this art, right? But it's all these mathematical formulas.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we have to presume that Arthur is on some kind of mathematical spiritual journey to discover some kind of answers for his own. And he seems to be resentful for his lot in life because he can't find answers. But it just there's a lot there between the two brothers and their sort of differing approaches. So.
Oh, that's true. I haven't thought about that. But yeah, I think it's exactly. He's a kind of in a different level. He's in stage, I don't know, 11 or something. Yeah. If Larry's in stage 5,
He's a code red.
he's a code red. Yeah, DEFCON 3. I don't know. I'm just watching too many B class action flicks right now, so that has a bearing on my. But okay, so there's one thing I was just curious about. What your opinion? So to me, those rabbi stories, like there are three rabbis. So and the one thing first, like if you get into like kind of a big crisis about life, like things start happening, and then you cannot really make connections. I mean, your understanding of the world starts conflicting with the reality, right? That happens to that happens sometimes to us. Like we think that we kind of figured out how the world works. When something bad happens to us in different levels, we kind of feel like the world is crumbling, and it's mostly, I think, because there is this kind of a reality we think there is. We think there is a kind of a purpose to things happening around us. Not that we actively seek that, not that we actively know that, but we think there is a kind of a meaning in the life that we have, because otherwise, we can't really make sense out of it. That's what meaning is. We see something, we make sense of it, and that's how we understand the world, relationships, life, politics, and everything else. But then sometimes reality kind of does not really happen in the way that we understand it. To him, life is figured out. He's gonna get the tenure, right? He has the kids, he has a wife, he has a job, he has a car, he has a loan, he has a house. Everything is figured out, but then shit hits the fan. And then that reality that he thinks that there is starts kind of crumbling. And then he starts asking why. Would you also go to a rabbi to find an answer personally? Or I don't know, to a priest?
Well, why not? I think we should talk about the three rabbis and the three different encounters that Larry has with those rabbis, right?
Definitely.
So Larry's trying to get to this senior rabbi, right?
Yeah,
this,
the very, very elderly, if that is a term, almost drop that rabbi.
Yeah, he's on his last breaths.
Yeah, level 3.
But
level 3.
He's at level 3.
Yeah.
But his first is with this junior rabbi who is this rabbi's self-aware that he's not the rabbi of first choice. And he is, how would you describe their meeting between meeting between Larry and the first rabbi?
So what I've just felt like, this was kind of related to the point I was trying to make, in the sense, when you're in a crisis. So I mean, if everything is going well, I mean, that's the thing, right? If everything would go well, Larry wouldn't go see a rabbi, right? Because that's what we know from his wife, when she comes and says, like, I told you to see a rabbi, when actually she comes and says that she's seeing another man. So we know for a fact Larry hasn't been seeing rabbis personally, right? So in a way, I think that kind of tells us only when shit starts happening, you go see a rabbi. And then you ask the question, so, things are happening. I'm in a crisis, so give me an advice. So the first rabbi is a kind of a typical, I would say, mainstream, just change your perspective and you're going to see reasons everywhere. You're going to see God everywhere. You're going to see the point of life everywhere, kind of a rabbi. Like, look at the parking lot, Larry. Look at the parking lot. You know how beautiful it is, how great it is, how like everything is in harmony. So first rabbi, I think, is that, no content, no substance, no need for a discussion. Just go back to your non-crisis. You don't even start questioning things, because reasons are meanings and everything great is everywhere. Like, why are you even in a crisis? Why are you even questioning life right now? Why are you even here? You should just go seek on your own the very easy way out, because it's all everywhere, right? Everything is great. Parking lot, looking at a parking lot tells you that life is great. So why are you even...
On top of the rabbi doesn't even listen to Larry, right?
I missed that. That's really good.
He has this sort of canned response about a parking lot and looking out and through the window and appreciating whatever he's trying to say. This like very new age kind of answer to Larry's very serious existential question. And he's he goes through this entire monologue about the fucking parking lot,
and the face, Larry says, face.
Yeah, he's not listening to
No,
Larry.
definitely not.
So Larry needs to move on, right? I think that's without saying.
Definitely. I think now you said that, it even makes it more clear. Like the next scene where he goes and sees the lawyer, and Larry's like, I'm gonna just find a new perspective in life. And the lawyer is like, really? And Larry's like, I guess not. Like it's it didn't really sink in, because it wasn't anything to do with Larry. Like just Larry went with his problems, and exactly how you said, I missed that. I kind of didn't pay attention how the first
Like,
rabbi level one kind of didn't even listen. Like he gave an advice to he gave an advice. He would give that same advice to everyone, right? So that's like a textbook advice.
right. Well, the lawyer, I think, is the lawyer. I don't know who the actor is, but I thought he was brilliant in this, because he's like this cold bucket of water for Larry. This bucket that's just going to be thrown on Larry. This, like, in that scene, he shakes Larry out of this sort of, not artificial, but like a very shallow new age approach that second rabbi might might have, or that first rabbi might have offered. So yeah, he's this lawyer. He's very grounded in reality, and easily shakes Larry of out of this new age philosophy.
But
Interesting.
do you find yourself sometimes looking at the parking lots?
No, do you?
I do. I do. Depends on where I am. Obviously, it's not really a scene where you can just observe everywhere. But
What do you think of look in the look in the parking lot?
I just think there are too many cars.
There's too many cars.
Yeah, I just think it's a really abundance of, and also confinement, and also absence of space. That's what I think. But I live in Istanbul right now, although I haven't seen a parking lot for a month. So
Yeah. Well, like I drive around in Atlanta, not too much nowadays, but I always get this like anxiety when I'm in parking lots, because
why?
when I was like 17, I got into like an accident when I was driving my car, and it was in a it was in a parking lot.
That's not a young enough age to have a trauma about after 10 years or more.
I don't know if I'd say it's trauma, but I'm like, I'm very on edge when I'm in parking lots. So the parking lot represents two different.
I don't think that was an information you wanted to share publicly.
No, I would just say, if you see me driving around in a parking lot, just know that it could end very poorly for you.
I think it's gonna be too late. Like the point that actually someone figures out it's you in the car, it's gonna be already too late for both parties. That's how it works.
Well,
yeah, I don't know. Unless you just put some big sticker on your car, it's the car of the guy who gets really weird in the parking lots.
No, just give me some space. That's all you're talking about space in parking lots, and I'm talking about also space.
But okay, I think we can just. I'm curious also about your interpretation of Rabbi 2. So level number 2, Rabbi 2. What does he say?
That fucking story.
Yeah.
I'll just go through this story pretty quickly. It's that there's a Jewish dentist who is cleaning a non-Jew's teeth in his office, and he's doing some work making a mold for this non-Jewish patient. And when he's doing a mold of the patient's teeth, he finds Hebrew letters behind the patient's teeth, right? And he calls this patient back into his office to see if he can get any more information out of this patient. Nothing, right? It's just this normal Minnesota non-Jew.
Yeah.
And so this dentist goes to Rabbi 2, and he asks about what this might mean. And that's kind of the outline of it, right? And that's where this rabbi leaves the story with
Yeah.
Larry.
Yeah, exactly.
And Larry's obvious response is, so, like, what was it? What was this message, or what explains this? So what do we make of this?
I think it's just like we don't need to make anything out of this. I think that's the point of the story. It just is, right? It's just there is something up above our paying grade. We're not supposed to understand, but we need to accept it. I mean, because otherwise you're not. Why in the hell you're telling that story where something weird happening? Putting little messages into even a non-Jewish Minnesota everyday goer's life, right, into the teeth. Uh, in a way, like making it about the quote unquote simple man makes it even like more divine.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I think that's the story. Well, accept the fact, and that's the fact. Just accept the fact that there is something going on, but we don't know what that is. We don't have to.
I think this is, how should I put it, postmodern answer to this question, or to this story, which is, make of this story whatever you will. It can mean, there could be 100 people, and 100 different people would have different answers, or different explanations for this story, right?
Yeah. I think the story itself, definitely we can just interpret it with a postmodernist outlook, but the rabbi level 2, his interpretation is not really postmodernist in the sense that he still accepts there is one truth, right? There's one creator, the one who interferes, but everyone can make their interpretation. But in the end of the day, you need to accept that there is. But postmodernist outlook would rather even be skeptical towards that big one truth about anything. So to me, actually, Rabbi level 3, the old one, I think that's more that's more postmodernist. He is just telling the junior Larry, I don't remember the boy's name right now, Larry Gopnik's son. Uh, he just tells. I mean, he first cites lyrics, right, from a song.
Yeah.
And then he just says, "Be a good boy." So I think that's more postmodernist in the sense. Well, you can get your old puzzlements and aporias and everything. In the end of the day, find your own way. Just be a good boy. Like, I'm not even telling you what is being a good boy is, right? I think that's what I liked about the level number 3 rabbi. So he's like the oldest one, and we always associate the old with the tradition and the old with the taboos. But we actually we go up to the ladders to the level 3, more like the older the rabbis get. In a way, I think Cohen brothers definitely ascribe some wisdom in the sense that, not in the traditional sense, but just telling us how the oldest one, seeing it all, just tells the boy, I don't know how many years old, 12,
13, yeah.
13, yeah. Just be a good boy. No, I'm not even telling you this is what being a good boy is. Just be a good boy. I think that's a little more postmodernist to me.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go with that. Yeah. And that. So let's talk about this third rabbi, right?
Yeah.
Larry tries to have a meeting with this third rabbi, and he goes to the office, and the secretary for this rabbi is very short with him. She's polite but not overly kind, and Larry begs her if she can ask if this third rabbi has time for him, and she walks back into this like comically long office that this rabbi is. She's like, it's almost like they don't even speak, like, and she comes back and says that the rabbi has no time for Larry. What this third rabbi is doing in his old age is only giving advice to young boys who have just become men, according to the Jewish. So what do we make of that? What do you think? going on with
I
that.
don't know. You know that tradition better than me. I'm not even supposed to talk about it. I don't know, I guess. Yeah.
Why wouldn't you be able to talk about Jews, Yusuf?
I don't know. Should I not? No,
I mean,
I'm not. This is not about the background of our social segregations uh, or political. It's just more about your expertise on the field, like whom I trust with his expertise about the Jewish history and Jewish social political intellectual heritage. So that's why I'm just appealing to the authority right now.
so I never had a bar mitzvah, but my dad did. It was exactly, oh, my dad would have exactly been that age in that year. So I think we can, take what I know a little bit about bar mitzvahs. And, so you're supposed to learn Hebrew so that you can recite this passage from the Torah. And by, reciting that passage, then you become a man, right? But Larry's son doesn't exhibit any signs of being an adult, shall we say.
No.
He's smoking weed. He owes people money. He seems to not emotionally be able to connect to anyone throughout the film.
That is so true.
And,
that scene where he calls his father dad, like, I don't know, I don't remember exactly. Like it was something in the level of this channel doesn't work.
okay, yeah, he's like, F Troop is fuzzy.
Yeah.
And like, what is Larry? What horrible scene is that for Larry? Is he getting divorced at that moment?
Yeah, he's where? So he's in the lawyer's office? No, wait, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he's in the lawyer's office, which also raises the question, like, so Larry's son found the lawyer's phone number, somehow had to find out that his father was at the lawyer's office.
I mean, it's likely that he called the university, and then the secretary has a note of that he's in the lawyer's office, and from there he just calls the lawyer's office. And if he actually think about all the measures that he need to take to reach his father, who's actually is going over a divorce, and and that he's actually still doing that to call his father about a fuzzy.
It's still yes. It's he had to take steps to
Yeah.
at the lawyer's office where his father's talking about a divorce to his mom.
His mother, yeah.
Which is amazing.
Speaking of mothers, happy Mother's Day to you.
Oh, happy Mother's to you too.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Larry's son actually gets a meeting with this third rabbi.
Yeah.
And his meeting takes place after he smokes a lot of weed before his bar mitzvah, and then he reads his passages successfully, and then he goes to meet this third rabbi, and like we just discussed, the rabbi gives him this advice of be a good boy, right?
Yeah.
So the rabbi, I was thinking about that. It's that common expression you hear in America is like, the more I learned, the more I got older, the less I knew. And I think that this rabbi might have had a bit of that philosophy, maybe in the sense that I don't know what's good and bad anymore. I'm not sure. I don't purport to have the answers, but maybe, Larry's son, maybe you need to have your own moral compass.
Yeah, and
that you think you need to be good. Right?
Yeah, and I surely couldn't care less about midlife crisis of dudes. It's just I think that
is anti-Semitic. I have reported you to the Anti-Defamation League.
Wait a second. Are you suggesting that it's more likely for a Jewish person to have a midlife crisis? I think that's more anti-Semitic.
Either way, I've reported you.
Thank you.
So this boy has this meeting with this rabbi, and it's the most definitive answer we get from any of the rabbis, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's like more of a message we are more accustomed with, and it also, I think it also kind of breaks it away from this transcendental message, right? It's just more about life. I think he's a clueless boy. I'm not fully sure if he's a bad, like, I don't think he's a bad boy, right? In like in our own standards.
He's like mischievous.
Yeah, I mean, we just shat on the boy for the last 10 minutes though, but yeah.
It's also, it's also his father, right?
Yeah.
His father, we don't know much about their relationship, right? We don't know. We
The
can
background. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can have a pretty good guess as to how involved Larry is with his son's life, or with his daughter's life. But I mean, we don't know, right?
Okay. I'm gonna think about that now.
No. All right. Well,
yeah.
let me know what let me know.
I will write a detailed report about that. But all right, something to think about. Thanks, Kyle. So so let's talk later. Let's talk later for sure.
Fair enough.
What about next week? So what are we gonna see? You have a suggestion?
We are going to watch Buffalo 66.
And I'm very happy about that because I haven't seen it. Like, and I'm actually, it was just after suggested to me that in person. I just looked at it, and I'm actually really happy nowadays to just kind of hear about movies that I just realized that I haven't seen because they're not so many.
Yeah. I guarantee you will have feelings about this movie.
That is good because that's, well, you know me that how hard that is normally. But
there's a pretty good cast, like Angelica Houston, Mickey Rourke's in it, Vincent Gallo, Christina Ricci. So it's a
cast,
and it's an interesting freshman debut for a director. So yeah, we look forward to that for next week.
All right, we're gonna talk about that, but as usual, we're gonna talk about many other things too. All right, take care.
All right, you too.